Tonight, tough talk from Ottawa as the government puts bail reform in its sights. What's in Mark Carney's plan to crack down on repeat offenders?
It will be up to the accused to prove to the court why they can be trusted to be released.
And a plan to tackle the rise in smash and grabs. Plus, sky-high frustration.
You should know that children are on the plane, and you should make sure that they are safe, full stop.
What Air Canada is saying after separating a toddler from her parents. And slugging it out in Seattle.
A well-hit ball to right field, going to backhand zone. It's gone! He did it again!
Can the Blue Jays steal another win on the road and bring the series back home?
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening. The Prime Minister revealed today that a bill to crack down on violent and repeat offenders will be introduced in a matter of days. But new details are emerging tonight about what that legislation will contain. CTV's Rachel Aiello starts us off with the proposed changes and how Ottawa is committing to boost law enforcement.
Taking steps to make it harder for violent criminals and repeat offenders to be released while awaiting trial, the Liberals' long-awaited bail reform and sentencing legislation is coming next week.
With so-called reverse onus bail, it will no longer be up to the Crown to prove why someone should stay behind bars. It will be up to the accused to prove to the court why they can be trusted to be released.
Offering a preview today before the bill is tabled in Parliament, Mark Carney said the tougher bail provisions will apply to violent crimes, including auto thefts, break-and-enters, and human trafficking. The new legislation will also amend the criminal code to allow consecutive sentencing for those convicted of multiple crimes, end conditional sentences for a series of sexual offenses, and impose tougher penalties for organized retail thefts. These changes, an effort to crack down on certain crimes surging in communities Canada-wide, such as brazen smash-and-grab robberies and home invasions. Today, Carney also announced that November's budget will include a nearly $2 billion funding increase for the RCMP.
Because tougher laws are only one part of safer communities.
This money will go towards hiring 1,000 new officers, boosting the cadet recruitment allowance, and dedicating more personnel to investigating financial crimes. But all this coming after months of political pressure, the reaction's been mixed to the Prime Minister's proposed reforms.
Today, all he promised was to reintroduce something the Liberals already announced 2 years ago.
They do strike a balance, and I think it's a measured approach.
The devil is in the details. We're going to take a look at what comes out next week, but we're happy to see that we were listened to.
Carney says he's confident these changes to the law are charter compliant, and he's pressing ahead with another major pre-budget public safety announcement tomorrow, focused on border security. Omar?
All right, Rachel, thank you. Edmonton police have charged a man in connection with the murder of Indigenous teenager Samuel Bird, who disappeared in June. Investigators say Samuel's remains were also located in a wooded area outside of Edmonton today. The boy, who would have turned 15 at the end of September, had not been seen since he left his mother's home in the city 4 months ago. A 38-year-old man has been charged with second-degree murder and interfering with a body. A cafe in Surrey, BC, owned by a Bollywood star has been targeted by gunfire for a third time. Kapil Sharma's Caps Cafe was shot up early this morning. Staff were inside, but no one was hurt. Police believe the shootings are tied to ongoing extortion attempts, primarily targeting the South Asian community. One of the hockey players found not guilty in a high-profile sexual assault trial in London, Ontario, is returning to the NHL. Goalie Carter Hart last played for Philadelphia, but he is now joining the Vegas Golden Knights and will be eligible to play his first game after December 1st. Hart and 4 other members of Canada's 2018 World Junior team were acquitted in July, but he is the first to land an NHL contract. Hart spoke for the first time since the trial today.
It's been a long road to get back to this point and to get back to playing the game of hockey, the game that I love. And I've been out of the game for a year and a half now. I've learned a lot, I've grown a lot, and I'm just excited to move forward.
Michael McLeod and Alex Formenton have signed with teams in Russia and Switzerland. Dylan Dubé and Cal Foote have not signed with new teams. And let's bring in TSN senior correspondent Rick Westhead right now. And Rick, Hart was the only one of those 5 players to testify at the trial. What is the team saying about his return to the NHL?
Well, as we just saw, Carter Hart did take some questions from local media in Las Vegas today. However, it's important to point out that often local hockey media now include people who are employed by the team themselves. So this is a real sensitive subject. It wasn't that long ago, only a few weeks in fact, that an American reporter with the Athletic website went to Vegas, went into the team practice facility, and was asking questions of Knights players about the potential for Carter Hart joining the NHL organization. The team stripped the reporter of his credentials and threw him out of the facility. So this is clearly a very sensitive subject. It'll be interesting to see what happens and how the team responds when the Knights go to other markets outside of their own where non-hockey media, international media are asking questions that might be a little more difficult to answer.
And Rick, we know that the 5 players are still suspended by Hockey Canada. Where do things stand there, and what's the impact of that going forward?
Well, the players are appealing their sanctions from Hockey Canada. And now that Carter Hart is on the verge of going back to the NHL, it's interesting to think about the potential of him trying to play for Canada again internationally. Hard to imagine that a player could get himself ready physically to play and perform to compete for Canada at the Olympics in February, but there's other international tournaments like the World Championships that someone like Carter Hart might aspire to play in again. And it'll be interesting to see how far and how hard Hockey Canada pushes back on the idea of these players having their sanctions lifted.
All right, lots to consider going forward. Rick, thank you so much for this tonight. I appreciate it. A Canadian family is calling for accountability after they were told to sit several rows away from their 18-month-old baby girl on an Air Canada Rouge flight. CTV's Adrian Gabriel on the lack of action and the fight for passenger rights.
From a sun-kissed Florida vacation to a return flight to Toronto clouded with uncertainty, the McLaughlin family's journey home began with a 5-hour flight delay. Then the family of 4 learned their 18-month-old daughter, Margaret, who they call Molly for short, had been placed on standby.
I said, how could she be on standby?
Eventually given a ticket, the McLaughlins then realized their toddler had been assigned to a seat all by herself, more than 6 rows away from her closest parent. Greg McLaughlin claims Air Canada flight attendants then refused to ask customers to switch seats, leaving the family to figure it out with passengers on their own.
You are a very large company that operates airplanes. You should know that children are on the plane, and you should make sure that they are safe, full stop.
Regulations state that children under 5 should be in a seat adjacent to their parent.
Hello, Greg. This is Amanda from the Canadian Transportation Agency.
Following a months-long investigation by the Canadian Transportation Agency, the CTA left this voicemail for the family last week.
We want to inform you that the investigation has now concluded and no enforcement action will be taken at this time.
I don't know why the Canadian taxpayer is paying for that agency. I'm not sure who they're protecting.
The maximum fine Air Canada could have received is $25,000. Consumer advocates believe the lack of action highlights a systemic issue.
The Canadian Transportation Agency and the government are serving the airline's private, financial, corporate interests instead of the public interest of passengers.
In an email, the CTA say their investigation found that the infant was seated with her family for flight AC 1659 and that no infraction to the regulations was found. According to her father, the only reason Molly ended up seated with her family was because her parents and passengers fixed the issue, while Air Canada staff refused to help. An email from Air Canada in part states that the airline has since taken measures to reinforce compliance through improved seat assignment technology. Air Canada eventually offered the family vouchers for future travel. The McLaughlins have declined.
For the family, they say this was never about receiving compensation. They never asked for vouchers. They simply wanted Air Canada to be held accountable. In their case, they believe that's something the Canadian Transportation Agency has failed to do. Adrian Gabriel, CTV News, Mississauga, Ontario.
The Canadian passport has overtaken its American counterpart in a passport power ranking. The Hanley Passport Index ranks Canada 9th for how many countries Canadians can access without applying for a visa. The U.S. passport is in 12th place, knocked out of the top 10 for the first time. Singapore sits at number 1. The Prime Minister said today he spoke to the global head of Stellantis right before the auto giant revealed it was shifting its production from Brampton, Ontario to Illinois earlier this week. And while Mark Carney said he received some assurances from the automaker, those would depend on the outcome of a renewed trade deal with the United States. Here's CTV's senior political correspondent Mike Couture.
They're looking at different model being produced in Brampton.
That assurance came in a phone call the Prime Minister had 2 days before the company announced it was moving $13 billion in investment to the U.S. Mark Carney also reminded the global CEO that Stellantis committed to maintaining its full Canadian footprint in Brampton in exchange for federal and provincial money.
We need to be strong in terms of making sure that companies that have done well by virtue of the various subsidies or initiatives that have been made meet their obligations.
It comes as Ontario's premier has implored the federal government to hit back on American trade policies that Doug Ford says paved the way for Stellantis to move production.
There's times to hit back and there's times to talk, and right now is the time to talk.
Prime Minister.
That restraint could be tied to a bigger calculation on Canada-U.S. relations.
This is China versus the world.
The American Treasury Secretary is calling on Western allies like Canada to back the U.S. in the trade war with China.
Bureaucrats in China cannot manage the supply chain or the manufacturing process for the rest of the world.
That comes after China's ambassador to Canada told CTV's Question Period that if Canada removes its 100% tariffs on Chinese EVs, China would remove tariffs on Canadian products like canola.
It's not that simple. Nor is the relationship in the auto sector that simple as just open a door here with China with no impact on the relationship with the United States and the impact on activity here in Canada.
In the middle of all this, plans are underway for Carney to meet with President Xi Jinping at the end of the month on the sidelines of the APEC summit in South Korea. Omar.
All right, Mike, thank you. A former member of Donald Trump's cabinet turned harsh critic of the president has now been indicted on federal charges.
I think he's, a bad person. I think he's a bad guy. Yeah, he's a bad guy.
Former National Security Advisor John Bolton was charged today with illegally storing and transmitting classified information. FBI agents searched his home in August, reportedly seizing documents marked classified or secret. Bolton is the third Trump critic to face federal charges after former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James. Rescue efforts are underway in Alaska, where extreme winds and a storm surge toppled homes and flooded entire communities. Hundreds have been forced to evacuate. Local officials say at least one person has died and 2 remain missing as the National Guard continues what it describes as the state's largest airlift rescue mission in recent history. And back here at home, we are in the middle of a housing crisis, but there is some good news for buyers and renters across the country. Here's CTV's John Vanavelli-Rao.
When it comes to the housing market in Toronto,
market is sluggish. It's really difficult. I'm hearing some
real estate agent Gus Papaioannou has felt the pain of the plunge. Compared to last year, his sales are down about 1/3, and he considers himself lucky.
I've heard other agents that are, down considerably more, 50, 70%. So a lot of agents are even getting out of the business.
And the new numbers showing nationwide, the total number of homes sold fell from August to September 1.7%. And while some provinces like Quebec and Nova Scotia have seen prices and sales actually go up this year, some think that may change.
What we suspect is that Quebec will cool off over the next few months, and Ontario will continue to worsen. So we'll see the national numbers slip again.
In terms of prices, Toronto's condo crash is continuing to bring down the national average, which fell 3.4% compared to a year ago and now stands at $676,000. But with the Bank of Canada expected to further cut interest rates, some think we could see a turnaround.
We should see a lot of buyers come off the sidelines next spring, especially if interest rates are even friendlier by then.
Among all the numbers released today was a silver lining for renters. Data showing new home starts, much of it rental units, were up 14% last month, which should help keep rents on their recent downward trajectory and assist with affordability. John Vanavelli-Rao, CTV News, Toronto.
Coming up.
So that is meth from Canada.
That is methamphetamine from Canada.
How cartels are moving meth through Canada to Australia and New Zealand. In part 3 of our W5 series tonight, Avery Haynes reveals the shocking cartel footprint here in Canada. Criminal networks using this country as a launch pad to ship meth from Mexico and the U.S. to New Zealand and Australia. And they aren't just moving their product through Canada, they're also making it here.
Across Canada, the RCMP has dismantled about a dozen meth labs in the last 2 years, including the Super Lab in remote BC, along with assault weapons, 700 kilos of meth, destined for export and linked to a Mexican cartel. Canada's cartel footprint is alarming. The Canadian government has declared these 7 cartels terrorist entities.
Those groups have been listed because they are very much involved in crime impacting Canada.
So all those groups are active in some way in Canada?
Yes.
Chief Superintendent Mathieu Bertrand is the RCMP's Director General of Organized Crime.
The organized crime groups will take the path of least resistance.
And is Canada the path of least resistance?
I would say no. Those illicit substances are coming from every country in North America.
For the shipments that are landing and being seized in New Zealand and Australia, they're coming from Canada.
So we're aware. Our head's not in the sand. It's obviously not a title that we're proud of, but because of it, I think our response will be measured towards that.
Part of that response, and this has not been announced publicly yet, starting in 2026, the RCMP will station an officer in New Zealand. It's not just in New Zealand. Meth from Canada is flooding the market here in Australia as well. Criminals in Canada are moving their product by air, by sea, and through the mail, sometimes in ingenious ways. This is Australia's largest mail sorting facility in suburban Sydney. Australian border officer Vero Petros wants a closer look at this box.
Where is that from? That's from Nobleton, Ontario.
Toys from Ontario. The green is plastic, but there's also a light orange color, a flag for drugs.
We can see a little bit of glue residue on the side. So what we'll do is we'll cut into it and just see what we can find on the inside.
And then jackpot.
Can I see inside the hollow? Oh, there's more in there.
So there's another bag in there as well.
The powder is put into the plastic testing pouch.
If it goes blue, it'll be methamphetamine.
So that is meth from Canada.
That is methamphetamine from Canada.
Dozens of plastic animals stuffed with meth. There is no Michelle Kahn living at this address in Nobleton, north of Toronto. The shocked homeowners asked not to be identified, fearful for their safety. The home appears to have been randomly selected by criminals shipping the meth, and this is not a large enough seizure to warrant an international police investigation.
Coming up tomorrow, rare interviews with New Zealand gang leaders and the devastating impact Canadian meth is having in that country. Still ahead, what doctors want people to know before playing pickleball. A new warning tonight for those playing the fast-growing sport of pickleball. CTV's Alex Karpa on what to watch out for.
The sport of pickleball is a hit with Canadians and is growing in popularity.
Fell in love with it instantly.
Tony Scavarelli has been playing for 3 years. He likes it so much, he became an instructor.
Pickleball is probably one of the best sports for you physically and mentally.
But as the sport's popularity grows, so too do the number of injuries. In addition to the regular knee and shoulder pains, a new study from the Journal of the American Medical Association finds that pickleball-related eye injuries have increased over the past 4 years.
You're generally a little bit lower. People lob in this game a lot more than they were before as well, and so you have that downward momentum if people just may not have their paddle in the right place to secure it. And also just not expecting it as well.
The report finds that some of the more severe eye injuries include orbital fractures and retinal detachment from either the pickleball itself or the paddle.
Whenever something's very popular, you see more
injuries.
Optometrist Dr. Nadine Shelton says she saw a handful of patients for pickleball-related injuries this past summer. She says people should wear eye protection even though it's not mandatory.
We're going to recommend wearing glasses, wearing sunglasses. There is sports glasses. We can do safety glasses, or have had groups of people coming in, sometimes even as a pickleball team, getting sports glasses or getting safety glasses to protect their eyes.
A message on safety Scavarelli says he will give to the new players so they too can enjoy the sport he loves. Alex Carper, CTV News, Winnipeg.
Legendary rock musician Ace Frehley has passed away. He was the co-founder and original lead guitarist for the band Kiss, known as the Spaceman or Space Ace for his stage makeup. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with the band in 2014. Frehley died of brain injuries he sustained in a fall last month. He was 74 years old. Still ahead, can the Blue Jays blow out the Mariners again in Seattle? Well, the Toronto Blue Jays rallied in Game 4 in Seattle, tying up the series with the Mariners.
A well-hit ball to right field, going to backhand zone. It's gone!
For the second night in a row, Andres Gimenez hit a two-run homer to jumpstart the team. The Blue Jays flying high after their win 8-2. CTV's Andrew Johnson is outside the stadium in Seattle. Andrew, Game 5 goes tomorrow and Game 6 back in Toronto on Sunday. Pretty exciting for Jays fans.
It sure is, Omar. They've done it again. For the second straight night, Mariners fans are leaving the ballpark behind me. They were leaving much before the final out, with the Jays' relentless offense back for a second night. You mentioned the home run by Jimenez to kick things off, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. also hit a home run, his fifth of the postseason. That's a new Jays record. And on the mound, 41-year-old Max Scherzer turned back the clock. The future Hall of Famer and two-time World Series champion had a shaky regular season, but he was rock solid tonight and exceeded expectations. That's got to please Jays fans. And now we have a new series, a best of three that no matter what happens will be decided back in Toronto, where after games 1 and 2, the team many fans didn't recognize, didn't come out strongly. Maybe there'll be a do-over. Omar, very exciting night for Jays fans.
It certainly is. Let's hope they keep up that momentum. Andrew Johnson in Seattle tonight. And that's a snapshot of this Thursday. Heather is here tomorrow. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching and good night.